lost.
Woo!
King of the Panadiers and Abigail in 1 year. Come on, guys, that's incredible. Mr. Kevin Durand, please come on to the stage.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? I just want to say thank you for coming to hang out with me for another day. I'm truly grateful to be in your presence. Thank you. So let's talk about me.
Kevin, what was your childhood like growing up?
Oh my goodness. Seriously?
Yeah.
I grew up in a place called Thunder Bay, Ontario. I was born and raised there. It's 21 hours northwest of Toronto. I spent a lot of time in the forest. I spent a lot of time playing hockey on the ice. I spent a lot of time isolated on my own. And I was so damn interested in everybody else, people who talk different, who walk different. And I didn't know that I could make a living doing it, but by the time I was a teenager, I probably had like 40 different accents that I could just pull out, and I would just do them in the mirror. And sometimes I'd do them with friends, but it was kind of a secret, hidden thing that I did for years, and then I found a way to make a living doing it, thank God. So my obsession, my passion is what I get to do every day. And you guys come and tell me that I do it really well at my table, and it's so nice. Thank
Did you always know you wanted to be an actor? Was that the first thing you wanted to do?
That was that was in my heart, but no one from where I'm from does that. There was a better chance for me to be a hockey player, and I loved hockey so much, and I love hockey so much, and I messed it up, and I was heartbroken for a long time, and then I thought, maybe I really can do this, and then this touring company came all the way up to Thunder Bay, and they were doing auditions. And my girlfriend at the time, I was 16, I was so in love with her, first love. Oh my God, I would have did anything for this girl. And she was going to audition for this show, and I was like, oh my God, she's gonna get it, because she's this beautiful dancer, and then she's gonna be around a lot of really interesting dudes. And I was like, I better be there. So I crashed the audition, and I wrote the lyrics for Music Man on my hand, and I showed up late because I had a basketball game. She's like, what do you do? And I was like, what do you need? And she was like, well, we need a singer, rappers, dancers. And I was like, and I started freestyling this thing. This is the thing I started doing from when I was a kid. I loved hip hop music, and I did this freestyle about how she came all the way to the north and she found the Aurora Borealis. And I got the gig, and so that took me out into the world out of Thunder Bay, and I thought, well, maybe I can actually pull this off. Yeah.
On IMDb, it says your nickname is Tree. Why are you called Tree?
Does anyone know the answer to this? Anyone? No. Okay. So, well then, poo on you. My first audition for a movie was Mystery Alaska. And my character's name was Tree, and Adam Tree Lane. And like I did with Abigail, 25 years later, I convinced the directors to let me speak in my original accent, which is it's French Canadian, Canadien Français, and merci beaucoup. and everybody from that movie was such pillars to me, like Russell Crowe and Burt Reynolds, and these people really instilled so much confidence and love in me that I continued from there.
In 1994, you were named one of Canada's funniest people.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Well, there's only 5 people in Canada, so I made the top 5. I won't say what number I was, but yeah, no, in Thunder Bay, Ontario, there was not a whole lot of opportunities for venues to get in front of people, and I was in the car with my mom. I was 13 years old, and this ad came on the radio, and it said, "Come on down to Victoriaville." No, it's probably not like that. It's probably like, "Hey, come on down to Victoriaville, eh? We have a comedy competition. We're looking for Thunder Bay's funniest person." And I looked at my mom and I said, "Mom, you gotta take me there." And she was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I think I can be funny." And she was like, "No." And I finally convinced her to bring me there. And I said, "Mommy, can I have," I call her Mommy, can I please have like $10? She was like, "What do you need $10 for?" I was like, "I'm gonna go buy things that I think that are funny, and then I'll talk about them on stage." She's like, "Here's $10, here's money for the bus." She was like, "I am not staying, you're gonna embarrass the hell out of me." And I came home that night with $1,000. And thank you very much. And they started to sneak me in to bars and hotels in Thunder Bay. From when I was 13, they'd hand me $50 and a microphone, and then make the adults laugh. Yeah. Holy shit, I don't even know what the question was.
How did you become Canada's funniest person?
Yes, that was the start. That's when I made it to 9th funniest. There was more people in Canada. And then when I went to university, one of the ways that I would pay for food was to do industrials. I would do stand-up comedy industrials, and that helped me, fill my 250-pound frame.
You've worked with Russell Crowe a number of times, and you seem to have a great relationship with him. Can you talk about working with him and singing with him? You've rapped with him, right?
Yeah. Russell was on Mystery Alaska. He still calls me Tree, and I would go to set on days that I wasn't working, and I would just watch him. And I think he thought that was pretty cool, except for every once in a while I'd go, "Tree, get the fuck out of my eye line!" And I would do that. I would get out of the eye line. I didn't know what an eye line was, but I ducked, basically. And the night before we did this one scene, he called me and said, "I think there should be more between our characters." And I said, "Okay." He's like, "You got a pad and pen?" And I was like, "Yup." And he was like, "This is what we're gonna do." And he wrote the scene. I wrote it down. He came up with the scene. He's like, "You got that?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's what we're gonna do tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh, cool. So you're gonna tell the director right there?" He's like, "Nah, mate. I'll fucking see you there." And I was like, "Okay." And we showed up, action, and we just did the scene, and it was magic. And God bless Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds came, he heard that this magical scene was happening. It really felt like magic to me. And he had me come up to his trailer after the scene, and he told me things that continue to fuel me today. Because when you're like the son of a lumberjack from Thunder Bay, the last thing you think you're going to be able to do is this for a living, and here I am 35 years later still doing it. You guys still come and see me do my stuff, so I'm so grateful. Russell has always been there. Like, I didn't have any family or friends in the business, and he was somebody, he came to see me on Broadway, and I talked to him, and I get really into my characters, if some of you noticed, but when I was on Broadway, I was playing this character that was really pushed out of society and incredibly became a very dark person and did these horrible things to the only person that loved him. And I would go off stage and I would just bawl for like 45 minutes until my next entrance. And I asked him, "Is that okay? Because I feel like I'm going crazy." And he thought about it for 2 weeks. And he looked at me and was like, "Man, it's gonna get easier." And I was like, "Okay." And he gave me a hug, and easier. And yeah, so it's nice to have someone that can help me out along the way with questions every once in a while.
That's okay. Could we show the first clip, please?
Oh, we have.
Was that the first time you wore that kind of intense makeup?
No, my first, actually when I was on Broadway, I got a call that James Cameron was interested in me to play this dog man, this chimera character in Dark Angel. And so I did 5.5 hours of prosthetics every day for a year. At one point I was losing a good amount of skin, so when the show was canceled, it was like, oh man, I get to keep my skin. Well, it's looking to the bright side. Yeah.
Who did that makeup on you? Do you remember?
Well, Alec Gillis and Tom
Woodrow.
Tom Woodrow, they created it, and we I was lucky. I was cast really early in that process, so I would come down to the studio and we would just try to work through it. They'd say, well, try this, and there's all different kinds of iterations that we went through.
Were you a fan of these comics?
I honestly I read Archie comics when I was a kid. I was a big Archie fan. I didn't read a lot of comic books when I was younger. I kind of got into it later on. So it was all new to me.
What was the fan response to you playing this character?
I think it was really, how was the fan response? A lot. Yeah, it was good. I remember Hugh saying to me, as we were like doing the boxing, he's like, oh man, you're gonna end up with a damn spin-off and all this stuff, and that never happened. So, but yeah, it was lots of fun.
Was that super hard to wear that costume, that makeup?
It was very hot, but honestly, like anytime I do any kind of prosthetic work, I usually go into like kind of a meditative space, and I love that when I open my eyes, I see someone different, and then it informs my performance in a whole different way.
Did you rehearse that scene, or did you just get into the makeup and do the scene? Because that must have been quite fascinating to go through that process.
We didn't rehearse, but I had a lot of talks with Gavin Hood, who's an amazing filmmaker. He kind of got he got bullied a little bit on that film because he really wanted to focus on the things that were important. And when you make these giant movies, sometimes you don't get to tell the story you want to.
I love that. Was his first film? It's called Saatchi.
Sochi.
That's a great movie.
It's insanely good. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, please let him direct this movie because he's young. But that's kind of what happens when sometimes when the monster takes hold. And what I mean by the monster is like when you have so many people in charge of telling the story, everybody's trying to put their 2 cents in, and at the end of the day, you're like, oh wow, what is this about? Like, it still turned out great, but I think his vision was a little different.
Can we play our next clip, please? I think that's an amazing series. I mean, what's it like to work for Guillermo del Toro?
Oh man, he's one of those guys that he is such a charismatic visionary that, Guillermo could have said, hey Kevin, go jump off of the CN Tower, we're gonna film it, you're gonna be okay, I promise. I'd be like, okay! Yeah, I mean, when I met with him, he was like, so you wanna play my Fett? I was like, well, I want to read the other 2 books, and he was like, really? He was like, how often do you get to save the world and get the girl? And I was like, you have a really good point. And it turned out to be like one of the, God, it was such a great experience because unfortunately I've got one of those faces that filmmakers like to kill, and he was like, no, I don't want to kill you. I want you to be my guy. So it was cool.
The work you do in that is beautiful. The specific guy, it's a beautiful performance. Did you relate to that character in some way?
Absolutely, yeah. I always felt like an underdog. Always felt like an underdog. You know, I was a giant child, and the kid. You'd think, oh, no one picked on you. They picked on me because I was a giant child, and I was a big, soft-hearted kid. And it wasn't until one day this kid stole my bike, and my dad got called. Sorry, I keep going on these tangents. Anyways.
No, go on tangents.
But
go on them.
he got called to come and tell the kid up the street to give my bike back. And he comes back from work at the end of the day and he goes, "Where's Kevin?" And he's like, "I don't know." He goes outside and he hears this yelling. I'm 4 years old and I'm beating the living crap out of this 9-year-old kid. I'm on top of him and I'm gorilla punching him. I didn't even know how to punch. I was like, "You took my," and then I took my bike and I was like, "Stay away from my bike, eh?" So there was always this side to me that was like, you can't take advantage of me. And Vasily was this guy that was just so fiercely intelligent, so emotionally intelligent, and he just happened to love being an exterminator. And he was looked down upon for that. And then in this world where everything's falling apart around him, his call has become so much greater, so he flourishes amongst all this chaos. And Guillermo, when we were doing reads with Nora's chemistry reads, he goes, "Kevin, you gotta understand, Fett never smiles, he doesn't show his emotions." And I was like, "Well, what about his journals and the books? Like, are you gonna film me doing my journals?" He was like, "No." And I was like, "I gotta play those journals." And he was like, we got through 3 of the 6 girls, he was like, "Fucking right." And I was like, "Cool." And you know, here's this guy, he's like coming to fruition while everything is crumbling. And it was the most exciting thing to play. Yeah.
I love that. Can we play another clip, please? So, this audience would kill me if I didn't ask, could you just do the line one time?
Stuck to the chair. I have to do the body.
It's very nice to be here today. I am going to ask you to join with me when I say, "What a wonderful day! What a wonderful day! What a wonderful day! What a wonderful day!"
I love you.
That was amazing. Were you a fan of the previous 8 movies?
I was a gigantic fan, actually. The '68 Charlton Heston version. Yeah. I would beg my mom to put it on when I was playing, and she would go, "No, last time you just cried and had nightmares." I was like, "Mom, please, 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 please." And I would push the couch a little away from the wall, and I would hide behind the couch, and I would just peek from around the couch, and I would just watch it, and I would cry. I was like, I couldn't believe that these apes were speaking. It didn't make any sense to me. And then you fast forward all these years, and then the last trilogy came out, and honestly, it's my favorite trilogy of all time. When they asked me to audition for Kingdom, I was like, "God, you guys really shouldn't mess with that." It's like, don't play. And then I read the words, and I was like, "Oh my God, the space that I have to add dimension and texture to this character, it really called upon all these different facets of what I do." And I've always been very, very physical So to be able to get into the body that way and study the anatomical, physiological differences and understand, try to create a sound through this like voice box and larynx and trachea that isn't used to making human sound, all of that. And then the psychological round. Once I learned all that, then I realized, this ape doesn't necessarily want to fully be ape. He kind of wants to be human because he worships the Roman Empire, and he's been reading so much about human history, and he's obsessed, but he doesn't want to make the same mistakes. And yet he kind of makes the same mistakes.
Where did that voice come from?
It just comes from the core of my being. We had been working on the body. Alain Gauthier and I, he was our movement coach, and he was one of the founders of Cirque du Soleil, so he was what an incredible artist. And we got to a point where we felt we had the body, and he'd ask me questions as Proximus, and I would speak like myself, because I didn't know what his voice was. And I was literally going home after all day of working, and I would just put up my phone, and I would just work on it, try to find it. I couldn't find it. It was pissing me off. It's driving me crazy. This is how I work all the time. My wife's like, oh my God, you're a nightmare when you're trying to find a character. And, because nothing means more, like it means so much to me, And Alain asked me a question, and all of a sudden I was like,
This feels good. I think this feels very good.
And he just went, oh yeah. He grabbed his phone, he started filming, he's like, don't stop, and he sent it to Wes, who's the greatest world builder out there. He just blows me away. We found it, yeah.
It's amazing. It's an amazing piece of work. What was the ape school like and the movement? How long were you in that for, and what were some of the things you had to learn to do?
Well, Owen Teague, who's incredible, and thank you, he's amazing. And Peter Macon and all these actors, they were there. Ika Darville, and they were all there before I was there. So they had a full ape school all together. And then I came in after, and I had a one-on-one ape school with Alain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it was very intensive, just he and I, and we just really connected on so many levels. So it was just discovery every day, and really understanding, their legs are so much shorter than ours, and their entire physiology, anatomy is different. So it's like trying to figure out how to get into that body and understand that the hip and the ribs are so close together that there's no torsion. So it's like, and then you kind of want to. I wanted to make him almost kind of elegant in a way. And because he wants to be human, he's more erect. So I barely ever use these. I only use these on one scene, the crutches, because he wants everyone to see him like this.
How are you?
It's like, it's incredible.
Did you get, was that hold on your body to hold yourself in that position for long periods of time?
Strangely not. I mean, depending on your beliefs, whether you're follow some kind of dogma, or if you're into Darwinism or whatever, if we do indeed come from apes, once you start getting into the body, you feel very at home. And Owen and I actually, it got to the point where we couldn't get out of it, And we met, actually, this is a quick story, but I had never met Owen Teague, and he was filming, and he saw me, and on cut, he started to move towards me, and he was still playing Noah, and he was looking through the windows of these cars, looking at me, very curious, and he comes up to me as Noah, and I'm thinking, oh God, I've only aped in front of Alain. I don't want to start doing this in front of him. And he beckoned it from me. And then it just came out. And we took off for 40 minutes. And we found it, and they actually filmed it, behind the scenes filmed it, and it was like, at the end of it, they were like, wow, when are you guys shooting that?